Don't you know drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere, you can't stop it. Living life like a puppet, a bull, and so it's longevity. Drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere.
Hey, Murph here. I'm a former heroin addict, current alcoholic, and you're tuned into Self-Medicated Weekly Dose, a podcast all about drugs and the people who use them. As always, this program is inspired by the harm reduction movement, informed by my personal experience using all sorts of drugs for damn near 30 years, and enlightened by my special guests. And holy hell, do I have a dynamite guest on my hands today. He's a writer and comedian. You've seen him on Conan, Late Night with Seth Meyers, and The Late Late Show with James Corden. He was head writer and an executive producer for Deezus and Mero on Showtime. He earned 4 Emmy Awards, 2 Peabody Awards, and 3 WGA Awards as a staff writer on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. His debut stand-up special, People Pleaser, was produced by Comedy Dynamics, and it's available to stream now. I highly recommend it, and goddamn it, he truly is the sweetest man in show business. Please welcome to the program, Josh Gondelman.
Hey. Oh, thank you. Wow. The crowd goes wild.
I mean, they're all day they've been waiting for you here. They've lined up outside.
You've been keeping them in a basement.
I have, yes. They're in the crawl space of my home. So
Intimate.
It's finally, it's time for them to be out. I feel like that's how you get the hottest, the hottest crowds.
Yeah.
Like they come out, the lights hit them. They haven't seen light in weeks. They're feeling great.
Well, I feel like when you have, the wisdom is, right, if you have a show that's free, sometimes the audience feels like they're not invested in it, right? They just can kind of come and go as they please.
That's
but
right.
when you have an audience that you have just freed from a crawl space, then they're really psyched to be involved in the show.
They are. They feel. They're happy to be alive and to be a part of the show. But that's a captive audience, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's new? What's going on in your world? Just, personal, professional. How you feeling?
My personal life has been very lovely and cozy. My wife and I have been kind of just planning for the summer, which I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Our dog, Busy, is a very elderly pug at this point. So she kind of dominates our daily schedule.
Sure.
The older the dog gets, the more it's like a human infant, I think.
Yeah. No, I feel like that balance is exactly right. I feel like our 19-month-old daughter and your elderly pug, I think they're the same.
Yeah, she's 16. Our pug is 16 years old.
Oh, God bless.
And she's just such a sweet little clown, but she's also like very fussy and opinionated in her old age.
Sure.
And then professionally, I've been splitting time between touring, doing stand-up, and then picketing with the Writers Guild of America, which is on strike currently.
Yes.
So
solidarity. It's such a beautiful thing to see.
It's been really amazing to see solidarity from inside the membership and from outside the membership, from other unions, from the public at large. It's been really pretty amazing to see that people feel a community with the fight that we're in the middle of.
Hell yeah. We got a jam-packed program here, Josh, and I like to start things off with a little number called the Substance Report.
This is the question. Do junkies' lives matter?
So here's the deal. The mainstream media's narrative on substance use has always been garbage. So what I like to do here is take some top drug-related stories in the news and give them proper coverage from a drug user's perspective. This first number here was an interesting story that one of the listeners sent to me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. There's not much to. I'll just give you the headline here. This is from Vice. A white nationalist took MDMA for a drug study and renounced his racist views. The man who led the Midwest faction of a white nationalist group said he realized, quote, nothing matters without love after getting high in a University of Chicago study. Okay, so, first off, I guess, MDMA. I've had wonderful times on MDMA. Didn't have any white nationalist views to shed. But,
And you didn't become a white nationalist.
And I also didn't become, you're right, the other way. Yes.
It doesn't go.
Yes. Nothing matters without white love. White American love. Yes. No, I didn't have that other experience. And I wonder, first off, what your experiences are, just, I guess, with MDMA in general.
Sure.
And is this bullshit? What do you think about this? Because it was an anonymous, the guy didn't want to give his name.
So my personal experience with MDMA is that I tried to do it once on New Year's Eve 2010. And what we ended up acquiring, my partner at the time, what we ended up acquiring was not drugs. It was some kind of anodyne and sand, like decorative sand, could have been
Oh no.
talc.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, but I'm not, oh, there we go. I'm not like a super experimental person with drugs in my own life, but I was convinced to do it because to try it because a friend of mine told me that he's like, I've done every drug there is, and it's the only one that I think is like worth it in the long term. He goes, he's like, I do it once a year, and I always end up like crying and calling somebody that I haven't talked to in too long that I have a stupid grudge with and like mending fences. And I was like, that's a really beautiful testament to like whatever the drug opens up inside you.
Yep.
And I was like, I think if it's the kind of thing that can make people feel more like connected and harmonious, this feels like a worthwhile attempt, and biffed it. Did not.
Just got sand. Pounded sand.
But I felt very accomplished. Yeah. For even just giving it a shot.
No, I think that's great. There's nothing worse though than taking, like, especially with like a drug like MDMA. I think like any psychedelics, acid, or mushrooms or whatever. I mean, mushrooms you usually kind of know if you got what you got. But I've had some bunk acid in my day, and there's nothing worse than taking it and it's just the waiting game, and you feel the little bit of the butterfly. Yeah. You're like, is it all right? Are we going? Are we going? But then you never go.
It was like hours of like, do we take a little more?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, I think I'm starting to feel it. Nope, never mind. That was just a breeze. Just a breeze.
Yep.
Just a cool breeze.
You're like, not ready to bury the hatchet with that person I was just about to call. But
oh yeah, still furious.
Still holding on to that.
That's how I knew. I was like, all my enemies list still fully intact by the end of the night.
It's funny because it's like, it feels like the sketchy, sketch comedy version of like, MDMA, of this idea. Like this feels like a pitch, for a sketch. So that's why I kind of read this and I was like, yeah, not to knock Vice. And they always get, I get why this dude wouldn't want to say his name. Although now it's, well, maybe he's, his former, crew might not be pleased. That's like kind of a thing where you don't just, I guess, get to walk away as much. I don't know how white nationalists, I don't know if we're talking about neo-Nazis here.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like the mob or whether it's like an adult like kickball league where you're just
right.
Yeah, you'll just be one short next week.
Yeah. You're like, oh, well, yeah, I guess Randy's gone. Randy's took some MDMA and he's long gone. It's a fun drug. It's a tough drug to take consecutively. I found my lover Diana has sworn it off forever. We took it on a New Year's Eve. Also, I believe it might have been a little later than 2010, but yeah, I took it on a New Year's Eve. I took it actually. Now that I'm thinking back, I took a bunch in Philly in the year 2000 in the New Year. So I took it going into the old Y2K.
Oh, all right.
Expecting,
wow.
And obviously felt great. It was a great way to roll into that like big bust of nothing that was Y2K.
Just wanted to greet the apocalypse with love in your heart.
Yeah. And I was not a tech savvy person. I don't know how you were back in the year 2000, but I didn't really grow up with computers. I really didn't know much about it. So I kind of thought it was like, oh yeah, this, like I was at I actually went to a rave. The person I was dating at the time was very into rave. So this was as cliche as it gets, but at a rave with the MDMA, and I was like, oh, this'll, like everything will just shut down. We'll be able to go to bars and just get like, I thought it was going to be chaos, but it in fact, it was not.
I was with friends and we had set up a very old computer, like a friend's, like a computer that was probably 10 years old at the time, like a desktop computer. And we had set it up to run like some repeating program. It was like a Dots and Boxes demo game or something, something like incredibly rudimentary looking, and we had hoped that it would crash.
You're like, if anything's going to get buggy, it's going to be this.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, there's no way this has been updated to reflect the future. So at midnight it didn't, and it kept kind of kicking along. And then we were mad that there was no impact on this particular device. So what we did, we were like, we're going to go throw this off a bridge. And I, in my wisdom, was like, no, that's littering. But we might get caught. But what we should do is we should all write a little message for the future on it, because then it's a time capsule. And what better time for a time capsule than the moment that the world didn't end? So we all wrote just some bullshit on it, and then we threw it off a bridge. And then on the way back, we got stopped by like what appeared to be a drunk off-duty cop.
Perfect.
Yep. And we just one of my friends almost gave us up, but we were just like, he he was too forthcoming with the answers to this guy's questions.
This guy.
And then we just kind of hustled home before my friend's parents got in.
That's amazing. I wonder if you could ever get your hands on what those messages were that were written in there.
I know. I wonder if they're still there.
Oh my God. Yes. We got to look. No need to say that on air. It'll be like a Goonies situation. People go running after the buried Y2K treasure. I mean, look, if this guy figured it out, like with some MDMA, that's wonderful. I think you get that pure MDMA. The other problem is you never know, what you're getting because of we're forced into the shadows with all this. So they have some testing strips now that you can kind of, the kids are getting, a little better with it. But it's like, if you just get, because sometimes I used to get like ecstasy, whatever that one, it would be like, this isn't MDMA. This is like speed with this.
Right.
It's way too speedy, way too whatever.
I remember people started talking about Molly, right? As
Yeah,
like MDMA.
that's right.
You go, well, ecstasy is MDMA. And then you go, well, then what's Molly? And they go, it's like just MDMA.
It's, right.
Isn't that what the other thing was supposed
I was
to
like,
be?
but I grew up on ecstasy.
But like, not really.
Yeah.
Well, how do I know that this is the thing? And you're like,
Yeah. Because it's called Molly. You're like, oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
We came up with a different name for the same thing. That means we didn't fuck with it.
It was a good branding move. And I love that there's studies at University of Chicago because MDMA has been, as is ketamine, they've been using it a lot for, PTSD and other shit. So I feel like a lot of these guys, not all of them, but I feel like a fair amount of these dudes spewing this hate and whatnot, it comes from somewhere that might be a little bit of trauma. So I wonder if too, that MDMA just kind of opened that up a little bit for them. Hey, to all the white nationalists out there who listen to this podcast, get yourself some MDMA and get your head on straight. All right. Well, that's the substance report. We've got another segment here that Josh said I love to dive into. And the drug war, after trillions of dollars, it's been going for decades. Over the course of that, like with any war, there's a lot of strange fog. So this number is called the fog of drug war.
War. It's fantastic.
A lot of confusion. A lot of weird shit comes out of war. It's a terrible thing. But at least it's provided us with some entertaining, stranger parts of the war on drugs. And this week we're going to be looking at the former president, Donald Trump, sat down with Brett Baer on Fox News there and did a little interview a couple of week or two ago. And, he's had this thing for a while that he's been kicking around where he talks about the death penalty for drug traffickers. That's one of his big things he's been hitting for a while. And, he brought it up again with Brett Baer, but this time it takes an interesting turn because there's, as you'll see here, I'm just trying to give a little bit of setup, but we can stop this video throughout and just marvel at the various twists and turns that Donald Trump takes us on with his death penalty pitch here.
He's got kind of a serpentine speech pattern.
It's Slithertown. It's like when you transcribe it and you put it on paper, it's just a map to Slithertown. It just ends in it's wild. So it's hard to keep up in that way, and he really he struggles to keep up with himself here, as a matter of fact. And Brett Baer, I never thought I'd say it, but really, doesn't let him off the hook with this one. And so let's just start it off where he dives into how he views the death penalty in regards to the drug war.
When I was in China, I met with President Xi, 1.4 billion people. I said, do you have a drug problem? No. I do not have a drug problem.
That is a great Xi Jinping, that impression.
I was going to say, it's weird because I feel like he's not doing like the stereotypical Chinese accent, which like is a relief.
That's right. Yes.
Not have to sit through that, but he is doing a different guy.
He's embodying another person. Let's just say that he's taken on another person, but he didn't get too hacky with it. So
no, he's not doing 80s teen comedy.
Nope. There's no no long duck dong here. But this is something happened. There was a little bit of a change there.
Why do you say that is? Because we immediately give a quick trial and a death penalty to drug dealers. And if you go to Singapore, rich, everything else, they had a huge drug problem. Zero drug problem. If you want to get rid of it. Now, I don't know that this country is ready for it. I just don't know. Every time I say it, I sort of like, it's not easy to say the death penalty, but remember this. A drug dealer, male or female drug dealer, plenty of female drug dealers too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those things too where he's like, well, I want to be inclusive.
Of course, yes.
But it's like,
And we thank you for that. We forget sometimes that there are female drug dealers, in fact.
shout out. Pretty soon he'll be even in threatening non-binary drug dealers with the death penalty.
Yes, the inclusive. His version of equity here is really just making sure that the full.
It's not DEI, it's DIE.
Yes.
Will kill approximately 500 people during the course of his or her life.
Now, also that that can't possibly even be a shitty. Like, you know, you can find numbers and statistics for almost anything.
Sure.
I still think that one came directly out of his ass. Like, I can't even imagine someone pretending to do a study where drug dealers, how many people has the average drug dealer, men and women, killed.
Because I was gonna say, I was like, are you talking about just like male?
Just
drug
men,
dealers?
right. Because certainly on average, I would say they probably kill more. But yeah, so, you know, men and women, they kill an average of 500 in their lifetime, which just seems like that's just not what? Like, there's all kinds of drug dealers. I myself would be certainly considered a drug dealer. That's the other wild thing about these laws is, like, you talk about drug trafficking. That's strangely enough, even under federal laws, a very there's a wide range of what is considered trafficking. And as any, you know, drug user knows, because people are using drugs on the daily, it's like, you know, whoever's copping that day for the group, it's like, oh, my guy got back, we can get this here. It's like you get hit on the wrong day for that. And it's like, that's what you see, the terrible stuff with these drug delivery resulting in death with like the fentanyl and stuff. It's just like, it's a roll of the dice. And they rarely are going after, you know, I mean, you're not talking about El Chapo here with every swing of the bat on these. So I'm like, this idea of like, everyone kills 500 people. I'm like, I don't.
And I would say, I mean, think about all the people that you know who sold drugs, like even just people who sold weed temporarily in like high school or college as like a side hustle.
Yes. 500 is a lot.
They've really got to be bringing the numbers down.
I mean, yes, big time. I mean, you know, I'm reminded of like the most prolific killers. Like in you know, people who are purposefully out there trying to kill people. Yeah. And it's like, you know, 500's a lot. That's a big body count.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot. You really have to put in work.
You do. Yeah, you really do.
And I don't think the average drug dealer puts in that much work.
No, not to kill. No, not to kill. I mean, that's a lot. That's a long period of.
How many people did Tony Montana kill in the movie
Scarface? Right. Yes. In the most over the top, you know, version of I guarantee you that body count. I mean, maybe he says the word fuck 500 times. I mean, that was a big thing in there.
Yeah, I don't.
But the body count's not at 500 for Tony. No. Anyway. So Brett Baer now here reminds him of a different a bit of rhetoric that he had.
You were a big proponent of the First Step Act, the criminal justice reform. You even ran an ad during the Super Bowl about it.
With gratitude, I want to thank President Donald John Trump.
A woman who you know very well was in jail. She had 24 more years to serve. She served for 22 years. She had
Alice Johnson.
Alice.
She was in the Super Bowl.
High quality. Oh, yeah. I said, how many years? And she was on a telephone call, and they were involved in selling marijuana, mostly marijuana. And she got like 50 years in jail.
But she'd be killed under your plan.
Huh?
Just gonna stop there for 1 second. Yeah, so Alice Johnson, that was the big thing where, you know, he had that stretch where Kim Kardashian came to him, and I don't think that was the Alice Johnson thing, or maybe, but there was another. So he was, you know, pardoning some people. He went on a stretch, you know, because that's a nice stroke for the ego. It's let's pardon somebody. They'll come into the Oval Office. Oh, thank you so much. So he went on a stretch of that. But now that's obviously very much in conflict with this. And now he's really wrapped himself up in something here that, what do you mean?
Huh? That's unexpected. Because normally I think this guy, he pivots more smoothly.
Yes.
He goes, no.
This is a rare fumble. Where I mean,
it's like such a
that was a
right, a full Tim Allen tool time.
Absolutely. And yeah, this just goes further and further off the rails as he tries to justify, where he's like, no, I didn't fuck up. Like, I didn't forget that I just said I would kill this woman who I'm now saying I saved. So this recovery is something to behold.
As a drug dealer.
No. Under that, it would depend on the severity. It would depend on the severity.
She's technically a former drug dealer. She had multi-million-dollar cocaine ring.
Any drug dealer. Look.
So even Alice Johnson in that ad.
She can't do it, okay? By the way, if that was there, no, she wouldn't be killed. It would start as of now, so you wouldn't go to the past.
I know, but your policy.
No, but starting now.
I like that his
starting now.
We're not traveling through time to kill drug dealers.
No, Brett, I don't know what kind of ridiculous, DeLorean you're hopping into here, pal, but we're talking about now.
Killing now, yes,
starting.
That's before.
Now, that was then.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No.
That was before. Now.
That was then. And if I got what I wanted then we wouldn't be talking about it now. I think it was Back to the Future 2 where he got out the chalkboard with the two where they just lost all, continuity of any sort of narrative of that film.
Yes.
But it's like, don't break it down too much. Like, let's not get caught up in it. But they actually pulled out the chalkboard and Doc Brown's on there with the two alternate timelines or whatever. I'm like, he's at that point now where he's just like, no.
Yes.
Now, see, then that would have been in the Super Bowl ad, but now we're here.
That was after then, and now is now.
Now is here, starting now.
But she wouldn't have done it if it was death penalty. In other words, if it was death penalty, she wouldn't have been on that phone call. She wouldn't have been a dealer. Now, she wasn't much of a dealer because she was sort of like, honestly, she got treated terribly. She was treated sort of like I get treated. But Brett,
But she wasn't put to death.
No.
So, she was treated. It's still absurd. all this, it's all,
yes, but the punitive war on drug sentencing is obviously like outrageous, and it's also Donald Trump being like, this woman who was in jail for 22 years is treated like I was treated, a guy who's never faced a material consequence.
Right. Yes. This woman who is in this butterfly effect revolving door scenario could either be put to death or is spending way too much, like spending her entire life in prison, is basically the way he's getting treated in this interview right now because Brett's holding him accountable for what he just said.
She was treated so terrible. It was like she was elected president and then committed numerous frauds while in office. And then kind of skated by for another half decade.
Yes. Built all these buildings, never paid the labor, all the stuff, all the great stuff that I've been able to do. The Pizza Hut commercials, slumming in those. Like, just, I was treated terribly on the set of those Pizza Hut commercials.
treated very unfairly. But she got 48 years. And that was bad. Now, today, if I did what I say that you have to do, and again, I'm not sure the country's ready for it. China was hugely, 150 years ago, China was taken over by much lesser countries because they were all drugged out on the opium and all the problems.
Sorry, real quick here. Brett Baer's face, I just want to go back to, he sees what's coming. he realizes, he goes, oh, now we've pirouetted. We've spun away. We've done all the time traveling we can do there. Where he's like, see, she wouldn't even have done it. See, the thing is, if the penalty was there, she never would have done it. So now we've erased. We've gone back, like in Back to the Future. You look at this photograph of Alice Johnson. She's disappearing. So you see now, but now she's come back, and now my parents are here. So my parents were gone. I went to the dance. I kissed my mom. I did all this stuff, and now we're here, Brett. And Brett realizes, he's like, oh no, here comes China. Like, this is now not at all what we've
Right. We're now back to China. And it's like, I'm sure Brett Baer's still like, there's still a chance he's gonna do the voice.
Yes. Yeah. He's like, I don't think he loved the way he nailed that last. He went right to the edge. It's like that awkward thing of not committing 100. You feel that where you're like, wish I could have that one back.
It's a communist regime. They dropped the hammer.
They were all drugged out. They were a disaster. They were taken over by other smaller countries, large sections of China. And then things happened and they had strong leadership and they put in the death penalty and they've been able to build. But if you speak to President Xi, he will tell you, without the death penalty, we would have a non-functioning country.
Okay. If you speak to him, he'll tell you that.
Get him on the horn.
Please get him on the horn. That also, just imagine believing with billions of people too, to say no drug problem. Now, also the U.S. really, takes it to, for a lot of reasons, material conditions being, first and foremost. It's like, and not, still treating this like halfway punitive shit, still having people fling around like, oh, the death penalty or whatever. This didn't work like in countries where they did try this. It's like you could see maybe stemming the flow momentarily if you're literally going to have death squads, extrajudicial, killings in the street, which they've done. Rodrigo Duarte pulled that
Yeah,
move.
and the Philippines is very punitive, right?
Yeah.
More than here, of course. Yeah.
Again,
but
you could still get, the drugs aren't gone. You know what I mean? The drugs are not gone. There's still people.
Yeah, it's just that there's drugs and also enormous violence committed on behalf of the state.
That's right. Yes. And to get the drugs then to supply them becomes so high stakes that then there's violence there as well. There's people fighting. Yep. Yeah. So it's just, violence and more violence. So that's just silly that he just believes Xi Jinping. It's like, oh, he tells him, no, there's no one in China uses drugs out of the billions of people. And Trump just buys that.
Well, it's like, Trump's one of those guys that I feel like there are people, I imagine it's like the highest stakes version of someone just clout chasing, where he's like, oh, Xi is one of the has high clout in China. He's an enormously powerful world leader. So I'm just going to trust what he says. It's like he would buy flat tummy tea from Xi Jinping. It's that level of influencer stuff.
Yeah, it's he's got him in some sort of timeshare situation. He's sold him a timeshare.
He's really got him. He could, if Xi Jinping were trying to defraud Donald Trump or to trick him into any kind of thing, really.
Some sort of MLM,
looking up. Yeah. You could get him. Trump's got wearing those leggings.
He's like, now I just need, if I can get 10 other people in these leggings, I need 10 other leggings, and then I get my super leggings. Yeah, it's
Pence, you'd look very good in these leggings. The LuLaRoe.
Oh man, yeah, he was scrambling in his leggings there. You do rarely. He's getting old. You know what I mean? He's getting older as well. He's usually a bit better with his pivots. That one was just just flat on his face. That was
is so good.
Awkward. Yeah. Huh?
You'd put your death penalty.
And then as he realizes, oh, he's so furious. Oh, he wants the death penalty for Brett Baer right there. Yeah, that's so that we'll see how that plays out. I feel like that's the fun thing where it's almost like we've reached a point where you want to just go okay. There's all this in the middle bullshit. There's this idea that, addiction is a sickness, it's a disease and all this. And that was supposed to help. I mean, whether or not the science behind that, whatever, but just the idea behind it, bringing empathy, compassion, people being like, oh, that's,
yeah.
And I do know some people who certainly relate to that and feel that way. But I do think that what it hasn't done, it seems, is then the answer to that is drug court. So there still is this punitive thing attached where you're like, okay, it's a disease, but if you don't treat it immediately, in this one-off here, and you're going to be pissing in a cup, every week now, and if you fail one of those, you're off to jail because you didn't cure your disease immediately. It almost puts us in this I could understand why I always going to say this is that this old school way, as much as I completely disagree with it, and I'm I've just it's so ruthless, but it's this idea of oh, fuck you, go die. This is a moral failing, blah blah. At least that has some level of consistency. Anyone on the other side should just be shouting from the rooftops. There has to be no punitive measures attached to this at all. Otherwise, you almost history. Yeah,
it's health based.
Yeah. Yes, it has to be yes.
You know the Mitch Hedberg joke. Do you know the old Mitch Hedberg joke about they say alcoholism is a disease, but it's the only one people get mad at you for having. Think about it this way. People could say damn it, Otto, you're an alcoholic, but no one ever be damn it, Otto, you have lupus.
Yes. Lupus is the one on there too. Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. It's true. And it's it's this weird in between that we've found ourselves where there's that push towards, compassion and treatment but it's still this holdover where it just makes for almost a more disturbing, if that's possible, than just all right, man, this shit's illegal and you're a drag on society. So we're going to throw you in a sack, tie it up and throw you in the river. And that's that, that's the response to it. Throw you in a cell and, whatever it is. But like this idea of like, oh yeah, we're going to try to treat you, but there's still judges involved. There's still court involved. There's still jail involved. Like there's too much of that where it's almost like I don't think we'll ever square that until there is a legitimate like decrim, even if not legalizing and saying, you can buy all drugs everywhere, at least starting with the true decrim, which in Oregon they've done. And I think they'll slowly do that state by state of just at least decriminalizing possession of all drugs. So Oregon had that Measure 110 a couple of years ago, which I think that's like at least a start where you just got to be like, we have to take the criminal penalties away from this and then work from there. Otherwise, you're coming from a real weird place where you're like, here's help and medicine in one hand and handcuffs in the other. It's just that's a hard, it's a hard thing.
That's interesting to think about, and it's weird too because the United States. This is gonna sound. I'm gonna say something so big. You'll be like, are you a little high right now? Like, the United States is really big. I don't know if you knew that, but it's lady using a buzzsaw. It's so fascinating with the state governments, just like different attitudes towards even alcohol and marijuana, the two most like legally available kind of intoxicants, right? It's like very different state by state, where in some places like you can buy infinite alcohol and no marijuana even medically, and then other places like Massachusetts, I think there's still some blue laws on the books where it's like liquor store. I don't know if liquor stores can even be open on Sundays, but
Massachusetts and PA similar in that way. Those old Puritans. There's a weird holdover law in Pennsylvania. This is always a fun one. Is that you go to like a convenience store or whatever. Now you go to like a beer distributor, you can buy a keg or cases of beer or whatever. But at the convenience that sell just 6 packs and 12 packs, you can only buy one 12 pack at a time. But that just, at that point, all that means is every convenience I've ever gone to growing up, it's like you can bring 5 12 packs of beer to the register, and they just ring you up for one, and you leave.
Ring you up
and
5 times.
I'm just like, what are we doing here?
Where I grew up, you can't even they don't even have beer at a convenience store. You're not allowed to do that.
That's in Massachusetts.
You gotta go to the liquor store. Yeah.
For PA, it was like that for a while. We slowly kind of made our way. Are you guys state controlled for the liquor stores too?
No, New Hampshire is though.
New Hampshire, so is PA. PA has state on the liquor. Yeah, all those laws are very, very strange. Cigarettes are another one.
Yeah.
With like the tax.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Given like how state by state it is, and how like one person, it feels like, or a few people that are like, this is what I think about drugs, can like really shape a vision, right? If they're in a position of enough power.
Yeah. And you really see the kind of it runs the gamut as far as state by state, where it's like Oregon has, all possession of any drug is decriminalized, and then in Louisiana, it's the death penalty for weed. As I understand the statute in Louisiana.
Trump passed it in Louisiana.
Louisiana only. Yeah, he was able to on a riverboat. He got on a riverboat and he won a mahjong tournament.
There is a loophole, right? If you're riverboat gambling, you can use any drug.
That's right. It's basically international,
ultranational waters.
Yeah, it's the time. You travel forward and back. It's like, the time traveling. You're in the past and the future. You run into your future self. I mean, there was all sorts of laws start to get broken there. But we'll hope and see. I don't think he'll get the chance to do it, and I don't think I don't know. I don't think that'll ever necessarily happen. But we'll see as the pendulum swings one way and the other. People are already shitting on Oregon for 110, being like, oh well, it's a cesspool, and it's if you go on the streets, people. And I'm like, you got to fall, because they're following it up without the funding yet, where they're just starting to do that. Where
it's right. You have to give people. It's not just about the decriminalization, right? You really have to give people access to treatment and safety, and it's not just about it. But I do think not treating people as criminals when they are just suffering is truly a good thing to do socially. It's a
huge weight. I mean, the Louise Vincent runs the National Drug Users Union, and she had this quote a while back that I remember when she was on the show that I love, which is I don't have a drug problem, I have a drug policy problem, which is so many issues for people come up and compound, the chaotic use, the harmful use of drugs, when it's like you catch a court case and it's like, that's, I mean, you're talking about stress and everything else for people. I'm like, that's a spiral. Like that'd be a spiral for most people. Like, I think that's the other thing is people who've never been caught up in that at all, like have had to go before a judge in any way. It's like they think it's one thing. They're like, oh, I've seen that on TV. Either pay a fine or you do a thing, or maybe you're in jail for, until you can make bail or whatever. I'm like, that shit just throws your life into a shit spiral, which obviously, but I'm like, you see people talk about it and I'm like, I don't think you have any idea how that system is set up.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll hopefully not see the death penalty, but we'll hopefully at least see more.
We got to ask Xi Jinping.
I'm waiting for him to call. Xi Jinping, the line is open for you anytime. 443 MK Ultra is the phone number for the weekly dose.
Next week,
real.
Huge download numbers.
Big time. I mean, that would be massive. That would be massive. So please do me that solid.
He calls up and he's like, hello, Mark.
Are you doing a Trump?
Xi Jinping sounds like Barack Obama.
Yeah. Why is Xi Jinping doing an Obama and Trump's doing like a half-ass Xi Jinping? I mean, this is all too much. We got to get these guys on three-way. Well, Josh, listen, my listeners, we've learned a lot about, elderly Donald Trump and the drug policy laws here.
Sure.
But I think my listeners would love to know a little bit more about you. So let's,
Sure.
What do you say we slide into a little number called Inside the User's Studio? We end our podcast session with a weekly dose version of the questionnaire that was used masterfully for 24 years by the late, great James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. And the first question is, Josh Gondelman, what is your favorite drug?
Gosh, I think maybe this is like an uncool answer, but I think I'm an iced coffee guy. I'm a caffeine guy.
Caffeination! America runs on Dunkin'. No shame there, my friend. Well, I don't know if you enjoy Dunkin', but
I do. I'm a big Dunkin' guy.
Sure.
So that is my drug.
A Massachusetts
It's
man.
not the only substance I use. Yeah, but that is a real. I think it would be disingenuous because it's the one that I use every day.
Sure. What is your least favorite drug? Aside from Sandy MDMA.
Yeah, I think fake ecstasy.
Fake ecstasy.
That's low on my list of enjoyable drug experiences. I think now that you can, this is again unhip, but and now that you can buy weed in stores,
Sure.
I've been a little bit more exploratory, but I haven't found out how to turn up and down the dials in a way that like suits me yet.
Sure.
So no matter what, I'll have an edible and I feel like it's always like, oh, I took one little thing and it doesn't do anything. And then I'll take two. And now I'm like, trying to like turn up the meaning, the existential meaning of words on TV with my remote control.
Yes, sure.
And I feel like there's just because I am like, and I came to most subs. I mean, even coffee, like I came to it like as a older person. Like I didn't start really drinking coffee in my 20s, didn't start drinking till my mid 20s. And so with booze, it took me a while to like find that point, but I feel like I've calibrated as an adult and I'm like, oh, I know how much to drink or how much coffee even to drink that feels good and how much is a little too much and then how much is like not quite enough. And with weed, I just have not gotten there.
Yes. It's I would say it's people like to say it's you go to a dispensary now, of course, which is certainly more helpful than just buying it in a James Way parking lot from
Sure.
from who knows who. But at least now you can kind of look at your strains. You got your indicas, your sativas, your hybrids, et cetera, et cetera. But I always say this too. People love to go, oh, you just haven't found your whatever. Some people just don't like weed. I mean, it sounds blasphemous to say on this program, but I some people just don't like it. So I hesitate to badger people when I hear a lot of that from people going, oh no, you just haven't found your strain, man. But I don't know. I don't know if it's some people. It's just they might not like it. So that's between you and your substance gods. What age were you? Well, you started to answer this. What age were you the first time you found yourself under the influence?
Man, I was like relatively pretty old. I got like lightly drunk the very last weekend of college.
Ooh.
I think kind of diminishingly, but like kind of control freak about how I feel.
Mhm.
And so I didn't drink through college. I also like drove a lot. Like I was going in and out of the city of Boston from college in the suburbs. And so I drove a lot and was a designated driver frequently. So I was 22, I think.
Yes. I love the way you phrase that, and I respect that of having the you like to have control over you. That's yes.
I really have like I like to know how I'm gonna feel, and I'm also like lightly compulsive about non-drug things, or I'm like, oh, I just ate that whole bag of chips. I feel like that, like a whole family size thing of chips in 3 hours. I feel like that speaks poorly of how I would react to cocaine.
Yes. Once you pop, you can't stop with the cocaine. That's for damn sure.
The nose Pringles.
Yes. Yes. Just. What celebrity's overdose death has had the most profound effect on you?
Ooh, I mean, we brought him up. I think is Mitch Hedberg.
Oh yes,
I don't know if his death was overdose, but I know he really wrestled with his relationship to substances, especially towards the end of his life.
For sure.
And I remember hearing the news or reading the news, and it was like right around April Fool's, and I thought it was like a mean prank that some radio station had reported or something.
Yes,
it was really sad. One of my favorite comedians,
some sort of mad cow. Prank on the radio. Yes,
exactly. And I had seen him performing live about 6 months before he passed away, and he was was on stage kind of a little, not in a super coherent way the whole time, and it just felt bad to see. And he was like somebody whose art I loved so much, and like and had just seen live, and it really was sad.
Yes, such a vulnerable curiosity. And very sad to see. What is your favorite slang word for cannabis?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I like say weed because I feel like it is the one that is the best middle ground that reflects my personality.
Sure.
Where like I think there are some that I can't get away with saying because people are like, "You're not that kind of guy."
What would you? What would you let me try?
You're not a chronic guy.
Yes. I was going to say a Chiba, not a Chiba man.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. I'm trying to put some in your mouth.
I'm not like reefer. Like I'm not.
No, I don't see
I'm
it.
sorry to do my Xi Jinping.
Yeah. You slid right into Trump doing Xi Jinping. Yes. Yes, no, I that makes sense. Weed is safe. Weed is a safe middle ground.
It feels pretty middle of the road.
Sure. Timeless. What drug would you like to deal for a living?
Ooh. That's a good question. I feel like honestly I feel like Adderall prices are now at a high.
Yes.
So it feels like
sell.
Lucrative. Yeah.
Yes.
But I do, what? I bet if you're a person that like sells mushrooms, I bet you have the chillest customer base.
Yes, that's the truth. Mushrooms is the most common answer, I believe, and I think it's for that reason. I think people like the connection to the clientele of like, oh, we're going on a journey. It
feels like that relationship feels the most like mellow and least fraught.
Agreed. There's not going to be any, when you buy what you buy and you go and you do your thing for the weekend, you're gone. There's not going to be a 3 a.m. call. There's not going to be a 6 a.m. call.
Dude, we need more shrooms.
Yeah, yes.
We're freaking out over here.
Yes. I need something to come down. Yes. No. It's that's a rare thing for mushrooms. What drug would you absolutely not like to deal under any circumstances?
Gosh. I mean, there's a bunch of them, I think. But I guess I think for the exact inverse reason, I feel like selling cocaine, you have to deal with a lot of people with bad attitudes.
Absolutely. Bad attitude. And just, yes, in a hurry.
Right.
In a hurry. You don't just, you rarely call for more cocaine. Again, like in that scenario, you got an 8-ball, everyone threw in on it. Now here we are. It's the, it's the wee hours and we're fiending, and it's that phone call is never an understandable, when you get to it situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very
Hey,
much.
no worries if not.
Yes.
It's something no one's ever said to
No.
them.
There's all the worries in the world. And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear Mitch Hedberg say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Great question. I think I would like to hear him say, ducks also eat free in heaven.
Yes. Oh,
And I would say, no, not just ducks. Everyone eats free in heaven. It's not like Subway.
Oh, Josh Gondelman, here are your drug users. Oh, yes. Well, I think we've arrived. I got weirdly emotional when you were talking about Mitch Hedberg and seeing him for the last time. I don't know why.
I think he's someone who's so beloved too. Like I've never brought him up and had people go like, ugh, or like,
no,
what an ass. Like everyone, I like tweeted something. I think there was some Vulture article about like best Mitch Hedberg jokes or just like a remembrance. And I just tweeted it, and like my whole replies, it was like the most genuine set of replies to anything I've ever posted. And people were just like remembering the way his comedy made them feel and remembering their favorite jokes. And it's just like, he had such a like you said, a vulnerable curiosity and like a warmth and like a whimsy on stage that I think everyone can relate to.
I think it was the rare thing and I think for as strong as a joke writer as he was, I think that's why people were surprised at the vulnerability, because the general cocksure, the comic's like, oh, I got a dynamite set on my hands here. I got some great jokes. There's usually a different presentation of those. So I think it is that vulnerability that was just really very lovable.
Yeah.
Well, Josh Gondelman, I think we've done it. I think we've done it here. Is there anything else you'd like to chat about? Is there any? Where can the listeners find you?
I have a newsletter. I'm on the road a ton, so I'm out all over the country still. In July, I'm doing San Diego, Sacramento, San Jose, Los Angeles, not in that order. The Phoenix area I'll be in, upstate New York, or not upstate, Woodstock.
That's up. That's up.
Upstate. Yeah, it's up.
It's up.
Maybe not upstate. But all my tour dates and everything, and I do I write a newsletter every Monday called That's Marvelous. It's free. It's full of pep talks. It's at joshgondelman.substack.com. And if you sign up for that, you can get a free, fun newsletter every week. Plus, it'll update you to all the other things I've been working on.
I cannot recommend that enough. And because, there's a lot of this stuff. You do a show with somebody, suck and fuck, all this bullshit. This is the truth when I say, you know how it goes, but it's like, I want the listeners to understand, just there are few, just wonderful souls in this business, and you're one of them. And I always
thank you. And likewise.
Yes.
Such a pleasure to get to chat.
Absolutely. I want to thank you again for joining me, and I want to thank all the listeners for tuning in. This has been your weekly dose.
Hey America, there's legal use of sleeping with your children, with your daughters, with your sons, and with your husband.
Self-Medicated Weekly Dose is hosted and produced by me, Murph Meyer, with support from Pop Culture Collaborative. Our theme song is My Congressman by 15, courtesy of Jeff Ott and Hopeless Records. Original artwork and production design by Diana Kolsky. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the program, you can listen to new episodes of Weekly Dose every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. While you're at it, subscribe to the Self-Medicated YouTube channel to see new video clips from the show each week. Follow me on Instagram at Murph Meyer. And for some top-shelf harm reduction resources, head over to selfmedicatedpod.com. Also, don't forget, you can call the Weekly Dose podcast anytime to leave me a voicemail message with your thoughts on drugs and the people who use them. Just pick up the phone and dial 443-MK-ULTRA. All right, that's about it for me. I'll see you next week. Love and solidarity. Goodbye.